Grandpa Ned's weathered hands trembled as he set down his morning coffee, the ceramic mug clinking against the kitchen table he'd built 40 years ago. His son Marcus stood in the doorway, expensive suit perfectly pressed, not a trace of remorse on his face. "I sold your house to pay for a vacation for me and my wife," Marcus said flatly. "You have one day to pack." For a moment, Ned couldn't breathe. The walls around him, walls he'd painted when Marcus was just a boy learning to ride a bike, seemed to close in. This couldn't be real, not from his own son. Ned Harrison had lived in the modest two-story house on Maple Street for 43 years. He'd carried his bride, Elena, over the threshold in 1982, both of them laughing and dizzy with the impossibility of their good fortune. They'd scraped together every penny for the down payment, and Ned had worked double shifts at the factory to make the mortgage payments those first few years. This house had witnessed everything. Marcus taking his first steps right there in the living room. Elena's laughter echoing from the kitchen where she'd perfected her famous apple pie recipe. The quiet grief after she passed away 5 years ago, leaving Ned alone with his memories and the garden she'd loved. Now on this Tuesday morning in late autumn, with golden leaves scattered across the lawn, he still mowed himself every week. His 62-year-old son was telling him it was all gone. "What do you mean, sold?" Ned finally managed, his voice hoarse. Marcus sighed impatiently, checking his phone. "Dad, we talked about this. You signed the power of attorney papers last year, remember, after that little incident with your blood pressure medication." Ned did remember. He'd accidentally taken his evening pills in the morning and felt dizzy for a few hours. Marcus had been so concerned, so attentive. He'd brought documents to the hospital, said it was just a precaution, just to make sure someone could handle things if Ned ever got really sick. "That was for emergencies," Ned said, his mind racing. "That was supposed to be for medical decisions." "It was a general power of attorney, Dad. Very clear. My lawyer made sure of it." Marcus pocketed his phone. "Look, Jennifer and I have been under a lot of stress. We need this trip to the Maldives. Do you have any idea how expensive couples therapy is? We're trying to save our marriage." "By stealing my house?" Ned's voice rose, something fierce and unfamiliar surging through him. He'd always been gentle Ned, patient Ned, understanding Ned. The father who'd worked overtime to pay for Marcus's college, who'd never complained when Marcus borrowed money and never paid it back. "It's not stealing, it's liquidating an asset. And honestly, Dad, you're getting older. This house is too much for you, all these stairs. What if you fall? We were going to have to sell it eventually anyway and move you into a care facility." "I'm 67 years old, Marcus. I mow my own lawn. I still help rebuild engines down at Joe's garage twice a week. I don't need a care facility." Marcus glanced around the kitchen with barely concealed disdain. "The place needs work anyway. New buyers are going to gut it, apparently, some young couple from the city." Ned's vision blurred. He thought of Elena's garden, the roses she'd planted that came back every spring like promises kept. He thought of the rings in the backyard oak tree, marking every year of growth alongside their marriage. He thought of Marcus's old bedroom upstairs, where Ned had left everything exactly as it was, including the baseball trophies and the photos of father and son at Little League games. "How much?" Ned asked quietly. "What? How much did you sell it for?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "That's not really." "How much, Marcus?" $420,000. Ned closed his eyes. The house had been paid off for 15 years, all that equity gone, and the vacation. 35,000, all-inclusive, private villa, 2 weeks. Jennifer's had her heart set on it. "So what about the rest of the money? That's nearly 400,000 left over." Marcus's jaw tightened. "There are expenses, Dad, real estate fees, legal costs. And honestly, Jennifer and I are in a bit of debt. Credit cards, the Tesla, the kitchen remodel. We're barely keeping our heads above water." The truth hit Ned like a physical blow. This wasn't about a vacation. This was about Marcus's mismanaged life, his inability to live within his means, his desperate need to maintain appearances at any cost. Where am I supposed to go? Ned asked. We'll figure something out. There's that assisted living place on Route 9. I picked up a brochure. Marcus pulled a glossy pamphlet from his briefcase and set it on the table. They have bingo nights. Ned looked at his son, really looked at him, and barely recognized the man standing before him. Where was the boy who'd cried when his goldfish died, who'd hugged Ned so tight at his high school graduation? When had he become this stranger who could casually destroy his father's life for a beach vacation? Get out, Ned said softly. Dad! Get out of my house. Ned's voice was steady now, cold as winter steel. You want me gone in a day? Fine, but you don't get to stand here and watch. Get out. Marcus's face flushed. You're being dramatic. You'll thank me for this eventually. You'll see this was the right. Out, Ned roared, surprising them both. Marcus left, muttering about ungrateful parents and dementia. Alone in the kitchen, Ned sat in silence for a long time. Then, with shaking hands, he picked up the phone and called his old friend Bill Henderson, who'd been a lawyer before retiring. Bill, it's Ned. I need your help with something. 2 hours later, Bill sat at the kitchen table, reading through the power of attorney documents with increasingly angry mutters. Ned, this is bad. He did technically have the legal right, but morally, this is elder abuse. We can fight it, but it'll take time, and from what you're telling me, the sale's already closed. One day, Ned said hollowly, that's all I have. Bill was quiet for a moment. Then, what if you didn't go quietly? What do you mean? Your son's counting on you being passive, being the same pushover you've always been. No offense. None taken, it's true. But what if you reminded him who you really are? Bill leaned forward. Ned, you built this house with your own hands. You added the sunroom, refinished all the floors, replanted every tree in that yard. You know things about this property that no one else does. A spark of something, not quite hope, but close to it, flickered in Ned's chest. Keep talking. That evening, Ned made several phone calls. To his nephew James, who worked in real estate. To his old coworker Pete, who'd become a home inspector. To his neighbor Dorothy, who'd lived on Maple Street even longer than Ned and had a memory like a steel trap. By nightfall, Ned had a plan. The next morning, as a moving truck pulled up to the house and the young couple from the city arrived with their real estate agent, Ned was waiting on the front porch in his best flannel shirt and work boots. Mr. Harrison, the young woman asked nervously, we thought you'd be gone by now. Just wrapping up a few things, Ned said pleasantly. Wanted to tell you about the house before I left. The husband, eager and oblivious, smiled. That'd be great. We're so excited. We're planning to completely renovate. Thought you might be, Ned said. Just wanted to make sure you knew about the foundation issues in the southeast corner. It settled about 3 inches in the last decade. You can see it if you look at the floor joists in the basement. Probably need to underpin that entire section before you do any renovation work. The couple exchanged glances. The real estate agent's smile tightened. And the roof, Ned continued conversationally. Got maybe 2 years left on it, 3 if you're lucky. The previous owner, that's me, patched it regularly, but there's water damage in the attic that'll need addressing. You saw that in the inspection, right? The inspection, the wife said weakly. Ned raised his eyebrows. You did get an inspection, didn't you? Because there's also the matter of the old septic system. This house isn't connected to city sewer. Tank's probably due for replacement in the next 5 years, and that's a $15,000 job minimum. The husband had pulled out his phone and was frantically typing. The real estate agent shot Ned a look of pure venom. There's no record of these issues in the disclosure, she said. Well, that's interesting, Ned replied, because my son handled the sale and I assumed he'd disclosed everything properly, you know, as legally required. The agent's face went pale. If you'll excuse us, we need to make some calls. By that afternoon, the young couple had backed out of the sale, threatening legal action over undisclosed defects. By evening, Marcus was at the door, his face purple with rage. "What did you do?" he shouted. "Told the truth," Ned said calmly. "Everything I mentioned is accurate. You never got an inspection report, did you? Just pushed through a fast sale. That's fraud, Marcus. Real estate fraud. You sabotaged me. I protected those young people from buying a money pit, and I protected myself from being homeless." Ned held up his phone. "I've also filed a police report for elder financial abuse, and Bill Henderson is drafting a lawsuit. We'll see what a judge thinks about you using power of attorney to steal your father's home." Marcus's anger crumbled into panic. "Dad, please, the money's gone. I already paid off the credit cards, made the down payment on the trip. If this sale falls through, I'm ruined." "You should have thought of that," Ned said, his heart aching despite everything, "before you sold your father's house out from under him for a vacation." "What do you want?" Marcus whispered. Ned took a deep breath. "I want my house back. I want you to fix this mess you've made, and I want you to understand that I'm your father, not your bank account." It took 3 months. Marcus had to borrow money from his in-laws, sell the Tesla, and cancel the Maldives trip. Jennifer filed for divorce anyway, and Marcus moved back into his old bedroom in Ned's house, the only place he could afford to live. Living together wasn't easy. They barely spoke at first, but slowly, awkwardly, something began to shift. One Saturday, Marcus came downstairs to find Ned in the garage, rebuilding a carburetor. "Need help?" Marcus asked quietly. Ned looked up, surprised. "You remember how? You taught me when I was 12. I haven't forgotten everything." They worked in silence for a while, the familiar rhythm of tools and shared purpose creating a bridge between them. "Dad," Marcus finally said, "I'm sorry. I don't know how I became this person." Ned wiped his hands on a rag. "I enabled it. Every time you needed money, I gave it. Every time you made a bad decision, I bailoed you out. I thought I was being a good father." You are. I'm the one who failed." "Then don't fail anymore," Ned said simply. "Be better for yourself." Marcus nodded, tears in his eyes. A year later, Ned stood in Alina's garden, watching the roses bloom. Marcus was inside, cooking dinner, something simple but made with care. He'd found work as a sales manager, started paying back his debts, and begun attending therapy. The house on Maple Street still stood, solid and strong. Ned would live here until his last day, he'd decided, and maybe, just maybe, he'd taught his son something valuable after all. Not every story has a perfect ending, but some stories have new beginnings, and sometimes that's enough. Ned smiled, touching a rose petal, and went inside to help with dinner.